right. And we are live. So how's everybody doing? Happy weekend. Happy Sunday. Happy just after 4th of July, which I totally forgot was a thing. Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. I do have some questions that people submitted online. Firstly, does anybody need any help unmuting themselves or getting their camera set up?
Hey, Mike's here.
Yay! Hi!
Hey!
We have a nice big group today.
It's the biggest, yeah, it's the biggest.
Why don't we quickly, before we go into the questions, I think it'd be fun if we all just quickly introduce ourselves, like what your name is, where you're from, and like maybe where you're at in the Teach Abroad process. So I don't think I need to introduce myself, but I'm Richelle, for those of you who haven't been on a live call yet. But yeah, does anybody want to start? Just say, hey, this is my name, I'm from here, and I'm planning on teaching abroad in China around this time, just so we can all get to know each other.
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Sarah. I live in Oklahoma City right now, and my plan is to do in September. They are processing the paperwork in China right now for my work permit. I think that's right. Hopefully in the next week or so I get that. And then I should hopefully have everything situated to go in mid-August, beginning of September, which is kind of crazy. That's coming up so soon. And that's me.
I'm Chris. I'm Richelle's fiance. I taught in China for 3 years. I'm mostly here for moral support, as I'm not planning to go back anytime soon, but I have answers if people have questions. But I think Richelle's probably better qualified to answer.
Yeah, but sometimes you come up with good stuff that I might have forgotten, so it's always good to have you.
Happy to help.
I'm Cameron. I'm originally from Alabama, but I'm currently in San Diego. I'm planning on going to China once my military contract is up in April, but I'm hoping to leave in February, so we'll see how that goes.
Anybody else want to go?
My name is Mike, and I'd really like to go to China, hopefully in September. I've got a couple stumbles lately, but I'm getting my paperwork ready and hoping for the best, hoping I can get everything done in time.
Okay, I think it's just Annie left. I don't know if you want to hop on or I think you're unmuted. I don't know if she can hear. Okay, if you can't figure the tech stuff out, I hope she can hear us. Let me type in the chat. Annie, can you hear us? Oh, I can hear everyone. Okay, you should be unmuted if you want to say something. It says on my dashboard that you're unmuted. That's fine. You don't have to have your video on. Don't worry about that.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Annie. I'm located in Los Angeles. I am at the very beginning of my process as I'm working on my TEFL right now, and I hope to have an opportunity to go to China this fall, so I know it's very soon. But it really depends on, you know, as I work with you, Richelle, and look at listings and whatnot, what kind of opportunities there are for me. I specifically want to be a admissions or college counselor.
Woo! Nice to meet you. Now, Annie just joined like a couple of days ago, so I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this has
thanks
been
for coming.
very helpful information. I think the summarization of everything that you have experienced and what you're passing on to all of us are quite valuable. It's given me a good perspective of what to expect as I'm getting into this process.
Well, hopefully we can get you there for the fall if we can get you on the process fast enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm glad you guys could all make it and get introduced. And yeah, if anybody has any specific, I know a few people sent me questions ahead of time, but if anyone has any specific question that they want to start with, we can just get right into it. I know there's a lot. If you would rather I just read one out that someone sent me, I can as well. But yeah, if anybody wants to start, I know Sarah and Mike sent me a few questions ahead of time. You just go for it.
I say start with the questions we already submitted.
Okay. So yeah, I think a couple people have been talking about visa documents, right? Mike, you mentioned this, and I know a few people have been asking me about this as well because it's a really complicated topic. So Mike, I don't know if you want to ask your question or if you just want me to do like a brief overview of like what we need for visas.
Well, one of my things is I actually live in Las Vegas right now, but I'm not from Las Vegas. So it would be really nice if I went maybe to China and in a year or two I could find a better job, more interesting job, and not have to fly back to Las Vegas to get more paperwork. So I'd like to get as much paperwork ready right now as I can. Letters of reference and things like that. And I'm kind of in the dark because I'm not really applying right now. But what do I need? What's my to-do list?
Yeah, because I know you were in a unique position because you're also looking at international schools. And in that case, you'd use your teaching certification rather than a TEFL. Do you have a TEFL? Remind me if you have one.
No, but I am a certified high school English teacher.
Okay, yeah. So
that's my bachelor's degree, and I'm actually certified right now. Yeah.
So were you able to talk to any schools about if you need to get your teaching certification authenticated? Because it's a different thing than a TEFL, so I wasn't.
Well, I actually got lucky. My registrar at my college actually has a notary. So I got my diploma notarized, not even an extra charge. That's in the mail.
Nice.
What was kind of weird is I actually taught high school here in Las Vegas for 10 years, and I had the school district print me up this kind of document that says every year I worked, 184 days or whatever. And I wanted to get it notarized, but the guy who signed it went on vacation. So I was like, oh man, you have to get me and the traveling notary and the guy who signs it all in the same room. And since I don't work for them anymore, it's kind of like, guys, help me out.
I mean, honestly, I'd be surprised if you need to get that document notarized. I feel like it would just be your certification and your diploma are like the two main things. But yeah. The really annoying thing about China is they just keep adding. Like first it was just your diploma that needed to be notarized, and then it was the TEFL, and it's like every time everyone gets their mind wrapped around the one new thing, then they just add another new thing. But yeah, I really hope that. So you are planning to apply for jobs from within the U.S., right?
Yes.
Yes. So they should tell you, like, if for some reason there's something extra that needs to be notarized, they should definitely let you know. But there should be no need for you to fly back from the U.S. if you're getting your visa. If you're getting your visa done in the U.S., like, there should be no additional paperwork that you need once you get your Z visa. Like, that's it. The rest. So for those of you who don't know or don't remember the module, you get a Z work visa, and then you arrive in China, and then they transition that into a residence permit, which is sort of like a short-term green card. But you don't need to do any paperwork between those two steps. Your school needs to submit some paperwork, but you don't have to do anything. You just have to get a medical examination in China, which isn't as scary as it sounds. It's more just like if you have HIV or like tuberculosis, they'll send you back. But it's really not like super scary. But yeah, so basically there was no need for you to have to get additional paperwork once you get that Z visa, right? Like once you get the Z visa, the only thing that you need to do is to get that medical examination in China. So hopefully that clears some stuff up for people. And then once you have that paperwork, even if you switch to another job in China, all you need to do is go to Hong Kong. They can, or actually, if you're still on your residence permit, they can switch it over within China. as well. You don't even need to go to Hong Kong. So you definitely don't need to fly back to the US. Like, I've transitioned from student visas to for work visas to student visas back to work visas, all by just going to Hong Kong. So definitely don't need to go back home for any of that. But let's just quickly go through like what you guys need, right? Like, it's a lot of stuff. So basically we have the TEFL certification, which needs to be like notarized and authenticated, unless you're a certified teacher in your home country, like Mike is, and then you don't need a TEFL. And then we have the diploma as well, which needs to be authenticated. And then obviously you'll need some paperwork from your school as well. And then you take all of that to apply for your visa. Is anybody else having any other paperwork issues? Or Mike, do you have any follow-up questions about that?
No, I'm just kind of waiting for paperwork to show up in the mailbox.
Yeah. I think it'll be helpful too, like once you start applying for jobs and get in that conversation with your school, because if for some reason every single province is different and every single province has like slightly stricter or less strict rules, which is super annoying. But it's sort of like the states in the US, like not every single state is exactly the same. But if for some reason there is anything additional, they'll let you know. So my advice for you would be to try and get a job like sooner rather than later. So if there is a problem or anything extra that you need, they will be able to tell you sooner rather than later. Yeah. And then you'll have time.
One thing that I found that has taken the longest is once I got my documents authenticated, I had to email them over, and then it takes 3 to 4 weeks, they said, for them to translate them and process them. And I didn't realize it took that long, because then once they get them back to me, then I still have to send it to like the Chinese embassy here to apply for my work visa. So I'm still like in limbo of getting that, and I have at least another 2 weeks. So just keep in mind that takes a little while too, to translate them and to get the documents back.
That's interesting that they have to I never realized that they had to actually translate them. I knew it took a while, but I didn't realize what exactly they were doing.
At least that's what they told me.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the whole process takes forever, right? Like every single thing, like once you get your documents in, you have to send it to them, and then they have to send documents back to you. And the whole process ends up taking a while, which is why I'm definitely like, okay, let's get started on this sooner rather than later, because I have so many friends who like didn't get their jobs until like beginning of August, and then they weren't able to get their paperwork done in time, and then they had to start in October, and it was really rushed. So ideally, we want to be starting on the process sooner rather than later, because apparently they need to translate all the documents into Chinese. But yeah, every step of the process always takes 10 times longer than you think it will. But thankfully, getting your visa only takes a couple days. So as long as they can get that to you with enough time for you to get your visa before your flight, that's the most important thing. Especially if you don't live near a consulate, you may have to use a visa service company and then rush your passport and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, that's what I've done, and it adds up quick, because then I've already sent them to get authenticated, and then I'll have to send it for the work visa too. Everything.
Yeah, definitely. The costs keep adding up. Every time they add something, then the costs add up, which is very frustrating and annoying. Because when I first started applying, like you didn't need to authenticate or notarize anything. So every single time they add something, the costs add up, which is very annoying. But thankfully, you can make the money back very quickly. It's more just that upfront cost that does get annoying. So maybe that will be something that I can add in the future, add up all those costs and make sure that everybody knows going in how much it'll cost for their visa, as well as just how much you need to save up before you leave for China. So that's a good thing.
I can send you my breakdown once I get done with it all, just for reference too.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, definitely. Because those costs do add up, and I think not everybody's prepared for them. And especially they just keep adding new things, right? And then every new thing that they add is more money. So yeah, so I can write that down, how much is the visa costs, so that people are a little more prepared so they can save up going in. But hopefully, another thing I forgot to mention about the visa is the background check as well, or like a police records check. So that's another thing that you need for your visa. Thankfully, at least in my state in Washington, it took 2 seconds. Like you just went into the police office and then they gave you a form. But I know some countries, especially South Africa, takes quite a while. And then some provinces in China require FBI background checks if you're from the US, which can take a few weeks. Okay, any other questions about visa documents? I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it's definitely the most confusing, probably.
Hey, Richelle, question.
Yes.
So I understand that in this just documents and paperwork and stuff like that, it can be lengthy depending on who it is that's employing you and how quickly they can get the visa authenticated and all that stuff. And it takes time to go back and forth in between. I understand that the school year starts obviously in fall. And if, let's say, you get an offer from a particular employer and the paperwork is slower than you'd like, what are the chances of the employer going back and saying, well, we want you here specifically for September, the target is September arrival and start, and let's say the paperwork is delayed to like later in October. Is there a chance or a possibility that they will rescind the offer for you to join them, or will they just wait it out? Or I just want to know how flexible they are in terms of, like, you know, we can't really control the speediness or the length of time that paperwork is processed.
That's a good question. Yeah, I think the most common thing that happens with a lot of schools is that they say, hey, we can't get the paperwork done until October, but we need you here in September. So can you come on a tourist visa, and then we'll switch you to a work visa as soon as the paperwork is done. That is very, very common. So I think ideally that's not something that any of you guys will have to do, because there's not always a guarantee that they will switch you to that work visa. You know, like they might say, oh, it'll be for sure done by October, and then it's not, you know, and then you've gone an entire year and you're still on a tourist visa. That happens all the time. So it really depends on the school and on the company. I mean, the job that you're applying for as college counselor, I think they've stopped doing this, but I was already on a residence permit as a student because I got my master's in China. And I just started working there on my student residence permit until they could switch me into the work one, basically. And I was fine with that. Like, I was like, oh, you know, chances of them catching me are pretty slim. But that is something that happens a lot, is the schools say, we need you in September. We can't get this paperwork done in time. Can you work for us for a month or two until we can get it all done? And then we'll fly you to Hong Kong and we'll switch your visa over. Now, it really depends on the school or the company, whether or not, like, I trust that they will actually do that. Like with my old company, I do trust that they will do that because they did it with me and they did it with a few other people. But I think they are trying to be super above board, almost annoyingly above board. So I don't know if that's something that they would offer you, but I have not heard of many schools rescinding offers, because chances are if they hire you, they need you. And there's probably not a chance that they can get anyone faster than you, right? Like if they say, oh, you can't come in September, we'll find someone else. How are they going to get someone even faster than you if they've already started the paperwork with you, right? Like it takes that long for everyone, right? So I doubt that they would rescind an offer, especially with admissions type jobs. I feel like more often they would offer to have you work on like a business visa or something for a month while they finish everything up for you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So have you actually heard back from that college counseling job, or are you still waiting to hear back from them?
I haven't heard back. Okay. Since we've submitted my resume, I haven't heard back or any contact from that company.
Okay. Well, I'll get in touch with them and see and have another look at your resume and see what we can do. So that's something I can get back to you on tomorrow. But yeah, so definitely that is something that you guys might encounter if the paperwork isn't done on time. Ideally, you would come on the right visa. But if you really, really love the job and we sort of all agree and trust that they're like a school that will actually get it done, it is an option. It's just not ideal, obviously. It's always better to be above board and come on the correct visa.
Obviously. But my only concern is when it's not the correct visa, does that then, this goes into complicating other things like opening up a bank account and so forth in terms of getting paid while you're there. It could potentially lead to being a month's or 2 months worth of employment that is unpaid or not paid until later. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is something that's new, that they're sort of cracking down on bank accounts of foreigners in China who are not paying taxes on their earnings. Because that's the thing, they want the taxes, right? So that's why they're cracking down on it. So basically, the issue is, and hi Madeline, we have somebody new here. Hi Madeline. But yeah, so we're just talking about like if you aren't able to get the visa paperwork done in time, and your school's like, we need you for September. Will you come on a tourist visa or will you come on a work visa, and then we'll switch you over? We're talking about like why that might happen and some issues with that, just to fill you in. But yeah, so basically they've started cracking down on foreigners with bank accounts getting monthly payments into them that look like a salary when that foreigner is on a business visa or a tourist visa, right? So basically what you would have to do if that was the scenario, if they were like, we really want you to come, but we need a month of you working on the wrong visa and then we'll switch you over, you would need to talk with them about that. They would have to probably pay you in cash. I can put some feelers out there of people that I know that are working kind of under the table and see if they're still getting paid into a bank account. Most of the people that I knew that were working not quite so legally are no longer in China. But I can definitely ask around and see what's happening with that. Actually, yeah, I do know at least 2 people who are still working on business or tourist visa. So I'll definitely ask them what's going on with that. But yeah, that's another reason why it's not ideal to work on the wrong visa, because there's nothing to guarantee you that you will get paid. And the government has been cracking down on money going into accounts when you're not paying taxes on that and you're not on the proper visa. So that would be definitely a conversation that you'd have to have. And that's why I say only do it with a company that I could personally vouch for like the company that I worked for, because I know that they're not going to scam anybody, but only work for a company with like very good like reviews and a place that you know like won't just withhold money from you, if that makes sense.
It does.
Any other questions about visas and the paperwork? Or actually, before we do that, Madeline, do you want to quickly just introduce yourself? Like, hi, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and like when you plan on possibly arriving in China, just so we can figure out where you're at in the process? I don't know if you're muted still. Let me see. No, you're not muted, so you can just talk. Uh-oh, it's not working. It seems like you're a little bit quiet. I don't know. I can hear like very faint talking, but I can't hear you. Maybe if you just want to type it into the chat. It seems like maybe your microphone's not really working. Okay. Just move on while we wait. Okay. But yeah, so if you just want to type where you're at in the process so we at least know, and then if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat. But if anyone has any other questions about visa stuff, just quickly, because I know a lot of you are arriving or planning on arriving in China soon, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, we can just go to the next topic. Any questions? Okay, well, okay, next question. Mike or Sarah, did you want to ask one of the ones you sent me, or do you want me to just read another one out?
Doesn't matter. I can ask one of mine.
Sure.
Okay, so when you're traveling around, I've never been to another country or anything, so I'm not too familiar. Do you bring your passport everywhere, like day to day? Is it just like something that you keep in your purse, or is like your driver's license like here like sufficient enough? I wasn't sure. I asked my sister and she goes, no, you don't bring that everywhere with you. You don't want to lose it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to ask somebody else.
That is a really good question. The first part to answer about your driver's license is like pretty much useless in China. Like there's almost, I mean, if you maybe have it on you, like have it in your wallet just in case. But yeah, it's not, maybe if you're like driving an e-bike, it'll be good to have, but like that's about it. But with your passport, what I recommend doing is in China, you are supposed to have your passport on you at all times, apparently. But nobody does this. So what you want to do is you want to take a photocopy of your passport and stick it in your wallet, or have a photo of your passport on your phone. I'm really bad at following my own advice. I just had a photo on my phone and I didn't have the paper in my wallet. But I would suggest, if you can, just while you're at home, take a photocopy of that main page of your passport and just fold it up and stick it in your wallet. And then I would have a photo on your phone as well. And then there are a few times where you will need to bring your passport with you. The main one is when you're traveling, like if you're going anywhere on a train, you'll need your passport. Potentially even buying train tickets, I believe they do need to see your passport, or at least when you pick the tickets up. And then anytime you stay in a hotel or a hostel, you need to have your passport because they need to like register you, like where you're staying. So when you get your apartment, you'll be registered with the police, like, hey, this is where I'm staying, like as a foreign visitor. But then when you travel, like the hotel will take your passport when they check you in and like register you. Scary, but whatever. So they always know where you are. But yeah, so bring it with you when you travel, because there's been a few times, like, because you don't need a passport for long distance buses. So like I would take a long distance bus somewhere and check into a hotel and realize that I forgot my passport. So usually I could like work my way around it with like a photocopy or something. But ideally you want to bring it with you when you travel. And definitely banking. Like if you are setting up a bank account or trying to exchange money or remit money home, you need your passport. As well as setting up like a SIM card, like with your phone, you'll need to bring your passport there too. So any of those like major things like bank account, phone, and travel. Otherwise, when you're just out and about in your everyday life, you can just have a photocopy of your passport and a picture on your phone, at least a picture on your phone. Chris says, I rarely took mine with me day to day. Yeah. Nobody IDs at bars. Yes. So like nobody, when you order alcohol, even if you look like you're 18 years old, I guess is the legal limit, nobody ever asks for ID, almost to the point where when I'm back in the US, I'm like, when people ask me for my ID, I'm like, oh, what? I'm like, oh. But yeah, Chris even said I've seen 15-year-old students in bars. Yeah, I mean, like no one will ever ask you for your ID, but it's always good to have like a photocopy and a photo of it on you just in case. But yeah, Madeline says, hi, I plan on going to China next year after I graduate college. I've been to China before for study abroad, but I'm just here to learn more about anything and everything. Hey, thanks, Madeline. Hopefully we can get your microphone fixed. But if not, if you have a question, you can just type it in the chat. But yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, right?
That helps, yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, any other questions we want to go to next, or should I just read one out?
If nobody's going, my phone died. So I had to buy a new phone. And I decided, you know what, I'll just go ahead with the $200 phone because I'm not sure if it'll work in China. And then as I was downloading all my apps and everything, I realized a lot of my logins are my phone number. And when I tried to activate the new apps, there was a lot of two-step authentication that went through my phone. And I'm looking and I'm like, wow, I can't remember who texted me, but this is going to be a mess. I got to go back through and do I remove my phone number from everything? When I go to China, will my U.S. carrier, who doesn't support China, do I just cancel my phone?
So that is a very good question. Phones are one thing that is like the bane of my existence living abroad, because everything's like, oh, we need to double check, especially banking. we need to double check before you can send money. And I am lucky enough that I use my mom's phone number for everything. She probably hates me for it. So I use her phone number for my banking. So I changed everything from my phone number to hers. And then when I need to send money internationally, I'm like, oh God, I gotta wait till she's awake. And then I wait till night, and then I call her like through Facebook on her phone. I'm like, hey Mom, I need to send money home, but I need you to be on your phone, and then I need you to tell me what the text message says so I can get the code. And she's like, okay. So I'm lucky that I have somebody that I can use, but I don't know if you have anybody that you can like rely on with their phone number, so you can change your phone number for especially banking stuff. Oh, Chris.
Is your phone on a contract, or are you paying like week to or month to month?
Oh, a month to month.
Like so you go in and like prepay it?
No. I've just been around for a while. I don't have a contract.
Oh, okay. So chances are most phones, I don't know about every US carrier, but usually if you're out of contract, you can ask them to unlock it before you leave.
Yep.
In which case, then you can just pop any SIM you want in, and they're super cheap and easy to set up in China. And then you can just manually update your two-step authentication to use your new number, and it'll work anywhere. Like I do that here with Twitter, anything. It'll just text me on my Vietnamese number.
And the final word is there's really no need to keep this account open because they just don't serve China. So
yeah. I've canceled mine back home as well.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that was another thing I was going to mention. Like if you can make sure your phone is unlocked, obviously, yes, do that, because you want to put a Chinese SIM card in your phone, so you'll have a Chinese phone number. So yeah, for a lot of things like WhatsApp and that kind of thing, I put my Chinese phone number. It was banking that's like the bane of my existence, because a lot of times they need it to be a US phone number. Like they won't allow me to put an international phone number in, but anything else that has a two-step login, like WhatsApp or Twitter or anything like that, you can change to your Chinese phone number once you get it. It's mostly banking, I've noticed, has been annoying. But one thing I would recommend for that is letting them all know that you're moving to China and getting like the apps for your banking. For example, I have like Wells Fargo in the US, and they have an app where I can log in with my thumbprint, and that never asks me for like an authentication. So I just always do it on the app, and I always make sure I'm off my VPN and I use my thumb. Or like, for example, my credit card, they just email me. So then I go into my email and I get the code and I plug it in. So a lot of times you will need to like authenticate, but there are ways around it. So if you talk with your banking, you can make that work. But for your phone, you said you paid $200, so you bought it outright. So
it's like a $215 phone, and I'm not into expensive phones because when you drop them, they're all worth the same when they're broke. So, but I was like, I'm like, man, everything's phone number. I got to clear this out.
Yeah, and so for sure, your phone is like unlocked, or you can at least, it's not like tied to your contract.
I actually dug into the settings, and I can unlock it. Yes.
Great. Yeah, because that's definitely something that you guys are all going to want to make sure that you have some sort of phone that's unlocked. Like when I first moved to China, I didn't. I mean, granted, this is a while ago. So I like took one of my parents' old phones with me to China because I needed an unlocked one. But yeah, so you'll definitely want a Chinese SIM card and a Chinese phone number for sure. Most of the stuff that you'll do in China is all online, like WeChat, like everyone uses WeChat to text and things like that. But you will want a Chinese phone number just in case a delivery van needs to call you, because those are the only people who will be calling you, trust me. But yeah, so it seems like you're pretty set. I would just, banking is like the one main thing that gets really annoying because they're very strict for good reason. But yeah, just let them all know that you're going abroad and see if there's some way that you can log in that doesn't involve getting a text message. That would be my number one priority for sure.
Hey, Mike, this is Annie. I just wanted to know, do you mind sharing what carrier you are on in the U.S.? I'm just curious, as I'm also trying to figure that out with my phone.
T-Mobile.
Yeah, I'm on T-Mobile as well.
Okay, and I didn't really explore it too hard, but the map of China had nothing for T-Mobile, so it was pretty obvious. You know.
To be honest, you probably wouldn't want to use it, even if they did. The roaming charges are usually like crazy high. Yeah, it would kill. It would like eat through money so fast using the roaming.
I have friends who have like phones that do have international plans in China, and yeah, what they do is they put a Chinese SIM card in their phone, and then like every once in a while, when they want to send money home and they need to get a particular text message, they take the Chinese SIM card out and put the U.S. SIM card in, turn on the roaming, get the text message, and then turn it off again. So I had a friend from my old job that did that, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's not something that I would go out of my way to have. It's like what Chris said. It's going to be way more cost effective to just get a Chinese SIM card.
Cool.
Now, when you do get to China and you do need a Chinese SIM card, the annoying thing is that you can't just walk into like any China Unicom or China mobile shop, because a lot of them aren't set up to process passports. And I was like, why? Like, why can't I just get my SIM card here? And every Chinese person can, but they need to like register your SIM with your ID, and they can only take Chinese IDs. So your school should definitely set you up with a place. All the main centers, and there should be multiple per city, all of the main centers can process passports. So like my school would take me to whatever center was able to process passports and get me set up on a phone plan. So when you arrive, if nobody in the first day or two has taken you to get your phone, definitely talk to them and be like, okay, you know, how do I get my phone set up? Because they'll tell you where to go. And if there's a lot of other foreign teachers at your school, they might just say, hey, I'll take you during lunch. I know where it is. But for the most part, your school will usually help you get that set up. Okay. You also had another good question as well, which is sort of similar to this. And that is about VPNs. Right? Like when to use the Chinese versions of things and when to use like a VPN to get on the Western sites, right? Do you remember what that question was, or should I just sort of run with it?
Was that me or was that someone else?
I thought that was you.
I don't know.
About like you, when to use like the Chinese versions of certain sites, and like, do you need to switch over from certain websites? If you don't remember, that's fine.
Okay.
Maybe I just got the wrong question out of your email. But yeah, we could just briefly go over it, right? Because a lot of the websites that Chinese people use are pretty different from ours. Like instead of YouTube, they'll use Youku. Instead of Facebook, it's WeChat. Google, it's Baidu. So for me and for most expats, I feel like we utilize our VPNs a lot. I don't know if anybody's gotten to that stage in the course yet where I talk about using VPNs, but basically that's a way to get onto sites and programs that are blocked in China, because pretty much anything you could ever want in China is blocked. You know, like Google, Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, like any of those sites like aren't going to work. So basically everybody gets a VPN, and I definitely recommend getting one before you go to China, because a lot of the VPN websites where you could buy a VPN are also blocked, right? So I would recommend buying one before you go to China. I use Express. I really like Express. Chris loves Astral. Both are good. But yeah, basically you want to download this on your computer and on your phone, and you can use that VPN to basically trick your internet into thinking that you're in another country. So you're able to get on pretty much any site that you want to get on. Your internet acts like, even your ads act like they're in your home country. So basically when I'm on my computer and connected to Wi-Fi, I'm always on my VPN. Like always, like there's almost no point in the internet like without it. On my phone, the VPN does drain your data and your battery, because it has to constantly reconnect to the server. I'm not a tech genius, but it has to constantly reconnect to whatever server. So it does drain your data package. So what I would do is have my VPN off on my phone. And then if I want to check Facebook for like 10 minutes, I'll just turn it on, get on Facebook, and then turn it off again. I know some people who have just completely destroyed like their data for the month by leaving their VPN on all the time. But I know some people are worried about VPNs. Oh, Madeline, yes, Madeline lived in China. She said, Sarah asked a question. Do you need separate VPNs for your phone and computer? And Madeline actually answered it. It's typically you can have multiple devices on one VPN plan. That's definitely true. You only need to buy it once, and it can be on all your devices. A lot of them have a limit to how many devices can be turned on at once because they don't want you sharing your VPN with like 20 people. So basically, I mean, a lot of plans, I think my Express plan, it could be on 2 devices at once. So like, let's say I put it on my phone, computer, and iPad. I can have it turned on my computer and my iPad at once. But if I turned it on my phone, it would turn off on another device, if that makes sense. Madeline says, sadly, I have to head out. Well, thanks so much for coming. Sorry we couldn't hear you, but hopefully you can join in on the next one. Bye. But yeah, so basically some people have asked me in the past if they need to be worried about VPNs because they're technically illegal. But honestly, it's not a big deal. Like, the government just does not care, especially if expats are on their VPNs. They know, like, what are we going to be doing? You know, of course we want to get on Gmail and Google and Facebook. It's more like to help Chinese industries and to sort of consolidate like what information Chinese people are able to access easily. So it's really like not a big deal that you have a VPN at all. No one cares. But yeah, so that's definitely the best way to get on all those sites. That way you don't have to switch over. I did set up Apple Maps and Bing on my phone just so that I wouldn't have to turn on my VPN to like look at a mapping app because Google Maps doesn't work. So yeah, I just like set it up so that Apple Maps was the main map on my phone so I could easily get around. But otherwise, just use your VPN for everything. Any other questions about VPNs? I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to that point of the video series, and perhaps it's somewhere else. But do you have it anywhere on the site listed out, kind of like a price range of what the VPNs cost, what the cell phone service costs, like just to kind of like, again, this all helps with adding up numbers prior to our arrival to kind of figure out how much money do I need to get everything all set up.
Yeah, definitely. So module, I believe it's 11, is all about budgeting and finances. So that, I did not put the VPN cost on there, but that is a good idea. Maybe I will add that in. But that definitely goes through like phone plan. You know, basically there is a super nerdy budget worksheet where you can fill in all your information and it will tell you exactly how much money you need to survive until your first paycheck, and then exactly how much money that you can make basically in the year that you're in China. And you fill in your own information and you pick whether you're in like a big city or a smaller city, and you use that to kind of figure out exactly how much money that you need. So phone plan is definitely in there. I believe it's usually like $30 a month or so. Most plans are like 200 RMB. And that's a plan with a lot of data, because that's what you're going to want in China, is a lot of data and not so much of anything else. But for the VPN, I believe Express and Astral are around $100 for a full year. So I recommend getting that plan. I know Astral does have like family plans, so if you wanted to like split it, I know like Chris and his brother did that, and it worked out to be a little cheaper, I think, or something, or if it was faster or like, something.
It's 5 devices, and it's got like a stealth VPN, so you can stream and download faster. From
what you said, Chris, Astral is not worth it unless you like pay for the fanciest one, right?
Yeah, so because I gamed online a lot, I wanted something super fast, so I paid extra for that. I think Express does the job otherwise.
Yeah, so for me, like, I don't game online. Like, the most that I'm doing is like streaming on Netflix. So I got the plan for Express where it's about $100 for 12 months. And you can pay per month, and it's a little bit more, or you can pay upfront, which is what I usually do because it saves money long term. And yeah, that was perfect for me. Strong VPN I used to use in the past was only $50 for the full year. So that's my like budget VPN favorite. But to be honest, it's not quite doing the job in China the way that Express does. I think $100 for the year, and you can like never have a problem and always access all the sites that you want to get on. At least for me, it was worth it, because Strong took away their tech support, and I feel like at least with Express, if I can't get on, I know I can at least talk to a tech support, and within 15 minutes, they'll have fixed the problem for me. So I really like them. That's who I always use. So hopefully that helps with some budgeting, but that is definitely a good idea of something that I can add in. I think I'm not sure if you were on, we were talking about this, but I was talking with Sarah about how much money it's going to cost you to actually get to China. And that could definitely be something that I add into the course in the future, because I've got, how much money it's going to take, you'll need to bring with you to China to survive till your first paycheck. But I don't actually have a breakdown of how much money is going to cost you to actually get set up to go to China. So maybe I'll put together something like that as well, because I know that those costs can definitely add up.
Well, I hope you do put something like that together. I think that would be an extremely helpful module to have.
Definitely. So I'll get in touch with Sarah, see how much she spent on certain things. I'll talk to a few other people, and hopefully in the next few weeks I can put something together. So I'm glad you guys brought that up, because I always get good ideas from you guys. So any other questions that you guys want to discuss? I know I have a couple more written down, but if you have a question, just feel free to throw one out. Okay, I know somebody asked about popular Western TV shows in classrooms, right? Was that Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually got really lucky when I started teaching high school. My niece and my nephew and my girlfriend's 2 daughters were all in middle school. So as I taught high school, I was never like behind, because I had like this wealth of information. Like, you guys know who Perry the Platypus is? He's a secret agent platypus. That one slipped in. Yeah. Like, I know this stuff. It's really sad, but you got to know who Mojo Jojo is. You have to know these things. So in America, if we want to do a skit, it's usually going to be like the Jerry Springer show, okay? Or if they're going to act it out, like every kid in America knows when Full House is on. Even though it's in reruns, you ask any ninth grader, they're going to be like 2 o'clock Thursday. So what American kind of pop culture is there in China? What do Chinese kids know? Do they know reruns? Do they know, Jerry Springer? Do they know cartoons? What do they know about American pop culture?
Well, Chris started on this, and I 100% agree. Big Bang Theory is a really popular, like extremely popular. Everyone loves Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. And a lot of girls find him attractive, which I find very interesting. So yeah, Big Bang Theory is very popular. 2 Broke Girls, also super popular. How I Met Your Mother, any of those like sitcom style shows tend to be very popular in China, but like the more recent ones. In the past, Friends was very popular, but I feel like a lot of the younger, like anybody who's older has probably seen Friends. But anybody who's like a teenager and younger, it's more like Big Bang Theory, How I Met Your Mother. They love Barney, they love Sheldon, and then 2 Broke Girls is very popular, even with like adults. Like I taught business English to some people in their 30s, and they were watching 2 Broke Girls, and I'm like, this is interesting. Okay, interesting choice, but sure. Justin Bieber is popular. Any of those like boy bands that people are listening to in the US tend to be popular.
All the big blockbusters as well. Like they get
Yes.
all the major movies. Marvel's huge, the Transformers movies. Some movies exist purely because China buys them. Like Transformers doesn't do well at home anymore, but it does so well in China that
World of Warcraft movie.
World of Warcraft made money because of that, yeah.
Yeah, so they all watch the Avengers and like that kind of thing. Any superhero movies, big action movies tend to be pretty popular. But yeah, I mean, if by mentioning Big Bang Theory, 2 Broke Girls, How I Met Your Mother, Justin Bieber, you're in the know already.
Okay.
There are some like Korean pop shows or like Korean like sitcom style dramas and like artists that are very popular as well, but they don't really expect you to know that. But if you like, for example, I used to use Justin Bieber in a lot of my examples, and the kids thought it was hilarious. But yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, but those like kind of laugh track style 30-minute funny sitcoms do very well in China.
Cool.
Yeah. So for all you guys, especially if you're teaching, like middle school or high school students, they like that kind of stuff. Okay, any other questions? Oh, are you muted? Here, I can. Oh, there we go.
I have a random phone question. So say that like that I have to be there September 1st or whenever. When do you recommend actually canceling your phone plan? Like, do you need it in between, like, flying wise? Like, do you want to have that phone service kind of thing? Because how do you communicate with anybody, back here, like as you're traveling or doing any of that, like all through Wi-Fi? I mean, I have an iPhone, so would it just be like iMessages kind of thing, or what do you recommend?
I'm the worst. I force everyone to Facebook message me.
That's what my friends like to use anyways, but I wasn't sure, like, what.
I'm obnoxious. I still don't understand if iMessage, like, actually works on internet or not. Because I've, like, tried to use it with people with iPhones, and then my mom was like, no, I'm sure it's charging me. And I'm like, okay, I won't do it. But WhatsApp is another one, but I just make everyone use Facebook message. And because the Facebook Messenger is an app in and of itself, so I just put that on my phone to message my friends from home. But I really don't think, what I've done in the past is, like, just let my phone plan run out while if I paid for a month and I only use half the month, like, oh well. Or if it's, like, expiring a couple days before I leave, then I just go without internet on my phone for a couple days. But as long as you have Wi-Fi, you can do most things. And then, as soon as you get to China, your SIM card won't work anyway. So you can hang on to it, like, if you want that same phone. I mean, it depends on sort of plan. Like, I know T-Mobile plans and stuff, usually they, like, give away your phone number if you end your plan. I have given away multiple phone numbers in the past. But I mean, you can hang on to your SIM card if you don't want to, like, pay money for another SIM card when you get back to the US. But once you get to China, you'll want to get that new Chinese SIM card, put it in your phone, and get all that set up. But for messaging people back home, I usually use Facebook Messenger. I use the Facebook video call or Skype to, like, actually talk to people. I found that sometimes Facebook video call can actually be faster than Skype. Like, sometimes Skype sometimes lags and Facebook is fine. Another FaceTime also can work. So there are multiple ways to keep in touch. The one thing that I do like about calling people on Facebook is that it'll actually ring on their phone, because sometimes if people aren't signed into Skype on their phone, like, it won't ring. Whereas if I'm texting someone on Facebook and then I know they're online, I can just call them through Facebook, which is cool. That didn't exist, like, when I first got to China. So there's lots of options. Okay.
Does anyone use Instagram to communicate with people?
Great question. I am horrible about communicating with people on Instagram. I'm like, I know I messaged Sarah once on there, like, before she ended up that was like a fluke. Like, I do check them, but, like, not the way I check Facebook. But you totally can, right? Because Instagram and Facebook, like, they're all, like, blocked in China, so you'll need your VPN for any of them. But if you are used to messaging people on Instagram, you can still definitely continue to do that. With your friends in China, like the friends that you make when you're in China, you will just use WeChat to communicate. Everybody does. So everybody gets a WeChat account. This is all in the last, like, the final module. So if this is new for any of you who haven't gone all the way through the course, like, I'll break it all down for you. But there's an app called WeChat. Everybody uses it to communicate in China. It also has, like, a social media component. It also can connect to your bank account. Basically, the Chinese government is, like, knows everything about you through this app, probably. But everybody messages via WeChat, and there are also, like, WeChat groups that you can be a part of. So you don't need your VPN to communicate. Everybody just does everything through WeChat. Even, like, my job had, like, a WeChat group where they would, like, message us work stuff.
That makes sense. I did download WeChat recently, and the reason why was because I was looking at apartment listings on the Beijinger.com site, and I found one that I liked, and I wanted to inquire, and I kept messaging them through their own website, their own listing, and they didn't reply back for like 10 days, 10 business days, and I'm like, somebody there has to be checking this stuff. So, and then finally I saw the WeChat in the listing, so I'm like, all right, fine. So I forced myself to download it. I was a little worried. I understand that the Chinese government can obtain a lot of information just from your WeChat app and all the information. They collect all that data. And I was a little concerned because when I downloaded the WeChat, I had to enter a telephone number to register it. It wouldn't let me enter an email or anything else. I had to do a phone number. And right now I have it registered under my US telephone number. And so I turned it on, and I was able to message the realtor and ask questions and talk and figure it out and use it. And so I think what's going to be kind of tricky for me, like when I go to China, do I make another account? How do I change the telephone number? Because then it'll be my US number that won't work. Or I'm borderline trying to keep my telephone number because for my own personal reasons, I have business-related matter, personal-related matters that will require me to keep this number for a period of time. Let's say if I go to China in this September, I'm still going to need my US number for contacts and general business well past September, like going into 2020. And so I'm trying to make it work. I understand it's going to kill me on roaming charges and whatnot, but I kind of really don't have a choice, and I'm going to have to end up keeping it. It was interesting that you brought up that your work friend had did that with the 2 SIM cards. Mm-hmm. So I may end up doing that where I will take out the SIM card, my Chinese SIM card, and put in the US one when I know I need to do something. And then, I don't know, I'm kind of in a weird place, but I feel like I'm going to have to suck it up and eat the costs of roaming because I still need this telephone number.
Well, I can answer, hopefully, both parts of that question. I just went into my WeChat app, and there is a spot in your profile and account security where you can put your mobile phone number in and actually change your mobile phone number. So when you're in WeChat, like when you get to China and you have a Chinese phone number, just post in the Facebook group. I can show you how to do it. I just figured it out. So there is a spot where you can actually change it to your Chinese phone number, which is convenient if you ever get like locked out or my phone died and I had never actually created a password. It never actually asked me to create a password, and I could not get back into my WeChat account, and I had to make another WeChat account. And I felt bad because I was like private tutoring someone on the side, and I could not ever get in touch with them again. Like I felt so bad, but I had like zero way to get in touch with them because I was locked out of my WeChat forever. So there is definitely a way to change your phone number in there. I recommend creating a password or something if you need to switch it over. But yeah, so that's that part. And then in terms of changing your phone number, I can get in touch with the person that I know that was doing that. But if you do need to make calls, like actually call a person's phone number, Skype does, if you give yourself Skype credit, it does cost money, but it's very cheap. You can use your Skype to call a phone number. So that might be nice, like a nice option for you to save some money. But if you do need that business phone number, just make sure you have some sort of international plan that you can at least turn on if you need to.
Yeah.
I don't know your carrier, but a lot of them also offer the option to do call forwarding. So where you keep your number active in the US, but when they call, it's actually forwarding to your Chinese number. I use that for business sometimes. It's not free, and usually it costs you money to receive the call, but it might be easier than having that SIM in all the time. When I travel for work, I sometimes have to set up call forwarding like that.
Nice. Maybe you can post in the group about that, Chris, because that's something that I don't have much experience with. And Cameron actually said, like, I've done some of my job interviews through WeChat. Yes, like WeChat is life. And I really feel like WeChat is amazing. Like, take out the Chinese government component. And I was legit trying to convince my friends in the US to switch to WeChat because I liked it so much. The actual app is fantastic and the capabilities are fantastic, like miles ahead. I mean, the US is finally starting to catch up to everything that WeChat offers in one app. Like how Facebook now lets you talk with your voice in a text message and send it as a voice message to someone. Like WeChat's been doing that for years and years. Like it's a very convenient app. The only annoying thing is that, yeah, the government has access to it, but it's one of those things in China that the expats joke about, sort of like, yeah, the government's spying on us, right? Haha. But like nobody is actually genuinely concerned about it, if that makes sense. It's more like, I mean, even in the US, people kind of make jokes about like, oh, Facebook is watching you and targeting you with ads based on, Chris said, yeah, just don't talk about toppling the Chinese government and you'll probably be fine. One thing that I do want to throw out, and we did mention this in a previous Q&A session, is that Chris did have a friend who posted something about a factory fire in a WeChat, on his WeChat public account, like basically the Chinese version of Facebook. And the police like told him to take it down. So I would just refrain from posting anything negative about China in public spaces on WeChat. If you like complain about China privately, they don't care. Nobody cares. It's more like they don't want you posting links to articles and videos that criticize China on like the main, like their version of Facebook or in those giant 500-person WeChat groups. Like basically their version of a Facebook newsfeed or their version of a Facebook group. So if you can say literally whatever you want in like a private message with somebody and you're talking in English to another foreigner, nobody cares. It's more just like don't post like videos and articles critiquing China in like big public forums online on Chinese internet, if that makes sense. So post whatever you want on Facebook. When you're on your VPN, do whatever you want. In private chats, do whatever you want. It's more just like don't post inflammatory things about China in a big public space, because that's almost like the equivalent of going to Tiananmen Square with like a Free Tibet sign. Like the internet can be like a public space in the same way that like walking into a mall could be a public space. So it's more like they just don't care what you say one-on-one or in a small group. It's more like they don't want you like sharing anti-China things in like a big platform, if that makes sense. Any questions about that? I know it really sounds scarier than it is. No questions? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a different country. It's a different way of life. Like the government is a bit more active and slightly more oppressive than most of our governments here. But it's really like you'll be fine as long as you're not running around like Free Tibet or the South China Sea doesn't belong to China in like a big public space. You'll be fine. Any questions about that? Okay. Hopefully no one's too concerned. I always feel bad talking about this topic, but I'm like, you'll be fine. Like nobody, it's fine. Yeah, any other questions? I know, Sarah, you were like trying to decide between age ranges.
Yeah, they told me I can decide as it gets closer because I wasn't sure. Like, I wanted to do the younger kids. They said in kindergarten age, it's 3 to 6, which is a big difference of ages. And then I'd be in a class with a Chinese teacher. I'd be there all day, but I'm only teaching for like 45 minutes. So I guess I'm just hanging out. And then if I was the next age up, then it'd be like, kids coming in and out. So I was like, which one do I want to do? Like, do I want the crutch of having like another teacher in the room or having more freedom of, just having my own? But then I got to thinking about it. I was like, maybe I'd learn Chinese more if I was in the kindergarten class because they'd be learning stuff too. So I was like, is that a plus? Or I don't know. I couldn't decide, and I still haven't really, put too much thought on it. But I'm like, it's coming up. So are they going to ask me? And then what is my response going to be? Because I still don't know.
I think it's really like, neither one of those are bad options. Like they're both great options. It's more like what you think you would enjoy more. With the kindergarten, my guess is that they'll rotate you a little bit through the age ranges. Like you might be teaching 45 minutes to the 3-year-olds and then teach 45 minutes to the 4-year-olds. Like they'll kind of move you around. Or did they say they would, because right, 3 to 6, they're probably not all learning the same English class at the same time.
Yeah, and it sounded like it was like one class that you'd be assigned to, like, and stay with that teacher. So I don't know if there's like, that would be like just a certain age range, but they said that the age range for kindergarten is 3 to 6 years old. But then I feel like either you or Chris mentioned it, that it's pretty much like babysitting.
I call it glorified English babysitting. Is what I call it.
That's what also ran through my mind. So I was like, well, what do I want to do? I was like, it might be easy because you're just kind of hanging out. But I'm like, am I going to get anything out of it? Am I going to enjoy this if I just am like sitting there all day?
I mean, it really depends. Like, I had a friend who taught at a kindergarten, and she really enjoyed it because she loved little kids. Sorry, I know you guys can probably hear that the dogs are going crazy outside. But she loved working with really little kids. She had like this big bubbly personality, and she had so much fun with it. But basically what it is these kindergartens can charge much more if they have a foreign English teacher talking in English and teaching English. So it's basically for parents to brag to their friends that their 3-year-old has an English teacher. But I think, there's been a lot of studies, like the younger you are, the easier it is for you to pick up language. So I think the idea is by having you around and talking to the little kids in English, they probably will not want you to speak Chinese at all. So even if you knew some Chinese, they would tell you not to use it because the Chinese teacher is there if like a kid's crying and saying a bunch of stuff in Chinese, then the Chinese teacher is there to like take care of that.
It kind of seems comforting in some ways, like that,
But yeah, I think the main idea is for you to just play with them and talk to them in English and then lead a little class full of games and songs. And I did teach 2 3-year-olds. I think it was like a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old English once while I was getting my master's on the side. And we did a lot of singing and a lot of little games. So anything that involved them, because singing, they would leave the classroom singing the song in English. And that, the parents are really excited about that because that showed that those words were actually sticking in their brains. So it'll be a lot of like, not so much structure, just making sure that they're having fun. Like our topic today is colors and like really basic and playing games with different colors and things. Like I would draw on little pieces of paper with different colored markers and hide them around the room and yell out the color and have them go find the paper and bring it back to me. And half the time it was wrong, but I'm like, no, that's green, find blue. And they'd go again. But yeah, I mean, it was good fun. Whereas the older kids, is that going to be at a public school or a training center?
Yeah. All public schools.
Okay. So most of the public schools will probably actually have a Chinese teacher in the classroom as well, like the home teacher. Whenever I taught at public schools with little kids, a lot of time their home teacher was also in the room because their English wasn't very good. So if there was a problem or a tantrum or like a situation, the homeschool, like the home teacher could be there in case of that. I don't know what the situation is with that school, but I have noticed that a lot of people teaching like young primary school students, there is a Chinese teacher in the room. But you would want to have like a little bit more of a structured class and like lesson plan if you're teaching that age range. Yeah, it's totally up to you which one you prefer. I like them both. I thought I would want to teach young primary school students, but then I realized later that my favorite age was high school. So you never know.
And another thing that I asked them, and I thought it was interesting, I asked them what the dress code was because I was like, okay, I'm kind of going through my closet and getting rid of clothes because I like to buy clothes. But they said no shorts, right? And they also said no collarbone showing. I mean, obviously this shirt's not okay. So does that mean just like t-shirts and jeans are totally fine? Like you don't have to dress up? This will be public school wise, but they didn't seem like it was really too dressy. And even when I've done like my Skype interviews, it looks like that they're just wearing like plain basic t-shirts, nothing really like dressed up wise.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of schools, especially public schools and training centers, international schools can be a little fancier depending on the school. But most of the public schools and training centers, it's very casual. Especially training centers usually have like a uniform or just casual. And then public schools, I've noticed a lot of teachers wear jeans, or a lot of the girls wear shorts with tights. So, but yeah, especially if you're in southern China where there's no indoor heating, a lot of like jeans and boots and puffy coats. I always try to like dress up my denim. So like I would wear jeans, but I would wear them with like a nice sweater or like a nice like blouse. So I was a little more professional. Even my like the college counseling job that I worked at, I think the dress, there wasn't really a dress code, but a lot of us did like dressed up denim. So like we might wear like jeans with like nice boots and like a nice sweater, or like you know, a nice dress or something like that. I think China tends to show off legs more than upper body for girls. A lot of Chinese girls wear very high necked things. So that was something like me having a bit of a chest. I always had, I did show my collarbones, but I always tried to make sure there was like no cleavage whatsoever, because especially teaching like teenagers, if you're the only girl or if the only female teacher in school with cleavage, it's not a good thing. But yeah, and then a lot of Chinese women tend to wear very short things. Like even teachers will wear like short shorts with like tights underneath. So I guess for you, they said no shorts. I would wear, they try to make sure things are like close to knee length, I guess, just to like if you wear a dress or skirt. But it is like pretty casual. I don't know, Chris, if you have any notes on that.
It's yeah, it varies heavily from center to center. Like I know Disney English, when I interviewed with them, they wanted me to wear a uniform and get rid of my beard and all of that. Yeah,
and then they wanted him to shave his beard, and then he was like, I'll find a job.
I look like a baby without a beard.
Yeah, Disney English, I mentioned this in my webinar as my friend Katie, like that was actually the school that she was working at, and they didn't allow her to have bangs or painted nails. Like, they had a lot of rules. But most schools are pretty casual, like surprisingly casual. And they will let you know, like, if there's no denim allowed. But typically, it's not a super dressy atmosphere, which is pretty nice, especially if you're teaching little kids and you're sitting on the floor and like rolling around with them. I don't know, whatever, in like a training center or something. It's good to not be super dressed up, because if you're gonna be just sitting on the floor with a bunch of kids, it's nice to kind of just wear like a t-shirt and a pair of jeans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as long as they say nothing too low cut, nothing too short, I think you can be easily casual, which is nice. Like I brought like actual like nice black work pants to China, and they stayed in my suitcase the entire time. I never took them out.
Yeah.
Any other questions that anyone has? All right. Well, always, if you do have any questions, you can just post in the Facebook group. That's always actually the fastest way to get in touch with me, because I can check it on the go, like whenever. Email is also great. It just might take me a little bit longer to get back to you because I'm not on it constantly. But yeah, if you guys have ever had any questions, just post in the Facebook group or send me an email, and I'll be sure to get back to you. I also think now that the group's expanding, if we do these like once a month or so, that would be a great way to make sure that everybody's on board, especially with so many people arriving in September. But for those of you who are still working on jobs, Annie, I will definitely get in touch with InReach and see what's going on with that. Mike, are you applying for jobs right now?
I'm not completely paperwork-wise out of the U.S. yet, and I'm not sure when I'm going to get all my stuff done, and I really don't want to talk to an employer that way. So when I have a better idea of when I can get out of here.
Okay, so you're not sure if you'll be able to be ready by September?
Yeah. No, I'm not happy about it.
Well, I know that you were open to potentially working in a training center. So like worst case scenario, you get done at a weird time, you work in a training center, and then you can switch to like an international school or something if you wanted to.
Cool. And I'm actually open to lots of different choices. So it's not that big of a deal, right?
And especially since you are a certified teacher, there are some higher level training centers like in Reach where Annie was applying that do have, like, we had like an AP US history teacher. So,
Wow.
you know, that that was like a place where certified teachers could work that you didn't necessarily like need to start in the fall. Well, I mean, maybe for that course, because it's AP, maybe. But like, for example, they had like a drama teacher who was like a certified teacher from Canada. And, you know, you could potentially start in the middle of the year for a job like that. So I'm sure we'll figure something out once you have an idea of what's going on with getting out of your current position. But yeah. Okay, well, that was some really great questions. Thanks so much for coming. And yeah, if you have any further questions, feel free to type in the Facebook group, or if you're listening to the live recording, you can always come back on and type a question if you have like a follow-up question or something in the Facebook group as well. But yeah, thanks so much for coming, guys. I'll see you.
Hey, Richelle, I know you're
Hey,
still
guys.
there, and if you want to end the recording, that's fine. Can I ask you a question while you're still online?
Sure, yeah. Do you want me to end the recording, or are you okay if it's on the recording?
You can end the recording.
Okay, so I'll end the recording. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming, and then I'll hop on and answer Annie's question. All right.